Hi, I'm Niamh,
I'm Jen,
and we're Biz Buddies. I don't think that one turned out. We might be having a little bit of lag at the moment, hopefully not, but oh my gosh, it's September. So now we're doing our What's Up September, which is where we talk to you about what's up, what's going on in our businesses and what's happening sort of behind the scenes. And we chit chat about what happened from the last time, as in you can kind of actually see, okay, what actually happened from the things we were talking about last month. So hopefully these will be fun updates and a kind of fun look into our businesses.
Yeah, and school has started for both of us. I think for working moms who work at home, that's a big one. My kids actually did start in August, but now that your kids have started too, Niamh, now we're both kind of in the same groove of like getting them up early, getting them off, getting them to school, and then yours is harder because you have a long ways to go. You have this big time between drop off and pick up. Here, I'm telling your story. Why am I doing that? I think for other working moms, it's so many of us struggle with this, and it's not something everyone talks about everywhere. It's like it's hard when they're off school in the summer because you have so much like time that your kids need to fill and you're trying to work. It's also hard when they start school because then there's all the logistics of pickups and drop-offs, and for me it's all the after-school therapies and all these things. So I'm just throwing in there.
The whole schedule sort of changes. I mean, so for me, we live almost an hour away from the school. We go to a school that's a little bit different from the sort of regular public schools in our area, and we really, really love it. It's worth the drive. But then the kids are only in there for, so many hours. So by the time we get there, it doesn't make sense to drive and come back and then drive back out. So at the moment, I'm driving them and then going and working in a cafe, which is like another 20 minutes away from the school. Their school is super, super middle of nowhere. So it's good in that, it's kind of nice to have the routine back. But oh my gosh, I love summer. I love sleeping in and I love the like creative energy. But I find that September shifts are like a little more productive energy, I hope. Yeah,
I kind of feel like sometimes even more than January 1st, like back to school time feels like the start of a new thing for me, a new cycle. Probably just because we're so ingrained from childhood being in school so long. Like I still think of a lot of times the year being, like August, September to May, June.
Yes.
I think of the school year instead of, I'm not in school because my kids are. So this seems like the work part of the year, whereas the summer is where everything goes a bit crazy.
Yeah, and at the moment, what I have been doing is like doing the Ignite Video Challenge, which we'll talk about, but I've been doing video challenges in September. So then that's also like it's like, okay, that sort of is shifting into a really different energy in my business than like in the summer, I was like creating products and creating training videos, and there's a lot of creation and a lot of ideas. And then now I'm like, suddenly I'm back to school. And so I'm like dealing with parents again. Not that there's anything wrong with parents, but I'm like being social and not hiding out in my house and, enforced talking to people every single day. And then also suddenly talking to people from a business perspective, like commenting on Facebook. Dude, that's talking to people now. Yeah.
Yeah, that's totally true. Yeah, the dynamics with other parents is always interesting too, especially if they find out you work at home and you don't. I do find there's this like kind of,
what's that like?
From home. Well, yeah. What are you selling things out of your garage? Are you like Mary Kay lady? But so that's interesting. But I love when September comes and you do your challenge too, because I get super excited about the challenge. Even though I do video a lot for this podcast with you now and my Financial Fluency podcast, in between your video challenges, I find myself, maybe it's because I do some video most weeks with the podcast, I keep meaning to do more in between, more other stuff, more video just to talk to people. and if I fall off the wagon. So when the challenge comes back, then I start doing them every day. Often, even though I'm doing your video challenges during the challenge, I'll still do another one during that day, because I'm like, I already got on camera, not that I do a lot to like make myself camera ready, but I'm like, okay, I've already been on camera once. I might as well do another video while I'm sitting here. I've got my phone all ready, and I can do a live.
Like inertia has been overcome. And so it's sort of easier to continue on. I find that too, like during a video challenge or anytime where I'm creating a lot of videos at once, it's much easier to create a bunch. Like I was just saying before we turned this on, we actually haven't recorded in like a week and a half or maybe 2 weeks now at this point, because we recorded a whole bunch of episodes to be ready. And then we had a few little tech hiccups and getting our podcast up and out. And so then it was like, so stuff got a tiny bit delayed, and all of a sudden it's been a couple of weeks since we've recorded, and I was like, wait, recording? What is this thing again? So it's sort of like, oh yeah, I know how to do this. And then it would be, we're going to actually do a Facebook Live thing after this, funny enough, which will now be in the past for you guys. But it's much easier to do stuff in batches, I find, like that. And there's like an energy to something. It's like, oh yeah, I'm in the energy of recording, or I'm in the energy of school, or any of that stuff. And those in between transitional times can be a little clunky.
Mm-hmm. I also got really sick last week. It was kind of funny. There's this group that Niamh and I are both in where we sometimes talk about something called upper limit problems from Gay Hendricks' book, The Big Leap. And I was like, I think I must be ULPing or ULPing, upper limit problems. In 1 week, we were trying to launch the podcast. I have some new offerings, which we talked about in August, the new podcast power session that I was offering. I got that up. I got my standalone program up finally. My Mastering Money Matters. There are things on my website that are for sale that weren't there a month ago. And that week I got so sick. Like I had 2 days just thinking I could get over it. And then by the third day, I was like, I need antibiotics or something. And I'm still struggling with it. I mean, it's been more than a week now. I still have like the chestiness and everything, but it's getting better. So yeah, just that was part of me not recording too, was just like, I'm horizontal right now. I can barely get out of bed. So that's part of my last update from last time, was just like, sometimes you get, and I hate the summer illness. It's not even cold outside yet. It doesn't feel like I should be.
It feels unfair. It's like, this is supposed to happen a few weeks from now. Although I always find that the first week back at school, almost always we get sick. And it's frustrating. And then when, like for me, if I get sick, then either I have to drive anyway, or the kids can't go to school. So it's a funny old thing that always happens. First week of school, like we had last week, my daughter they started the new kids, a few days later. So Tristan just started on Monday, but last week my daughter started, and she got sick on day 2. And then we missed, a couple days of school in the first week of school. And I always feel bad, but I think it's just that it's like you go from being sort of sequestered away to like all of a sudden mixing with all the germs that are out there at the moment. And I feel like your immune system's maybe not quite prepared for it.
Yeah, school is like a germ fest. But I feel like the older they get, the better they get. Preschool was the grossest, but now.
Well, preschool is tough. It was like for us, it was almost always the vomiting bug, like once a year, which is just, let's not even go there.
Okay. So back to updating what's up in September versus what was up in August. I did my little update of finally getting some of those programs out that I just mentioned, because last time we talked, I was like, Niamh already made this program, sold it out, and I still haven't made a sales page yet. But so I finally caught up with getting some of those things I said I would do out. Now I just have to figure out how to like promote them and get them out there. Niamh, you go now.
Okay, so in August, I was talking about doing my Challenges with Impact program, which is teaching people how to make challenges with impact. and yeah, I opened it. I was really nervous about it because it's something new to me to teach. Like I've been teaching video, so I'm super comfortable teaching video. I feel like I can talk about that forever. But talking about challenges was like a new space for me. So I got really nervous about it, and I ended up just sharing it with my private group of customers of my Light It Up video marketing, group membership program. And yeah, it sold out in 18 hours, all the spots for my group program. And then there was a whole bunch more people who had wanted to do it and for whatever reason hadn't been able to immediately hop in, and I felt really bad. So I made a slightly different offer for them to be able to hop in at the self-study level instead of the group program, and we had a whole bunch more people join at that level. So I didn't even ever open it to the public. So I'm so super sorry, general public, people out there. It will be coming back in November, I believe. But yeah, it was really exciting. And for me, what was really weird about it was like, I had this plan of like, okay, I'm going to send a certain number of emails. I'm going to record some videos talking about challenges. Like I had this whole promotional plan. And then I sent one email and then that was it. And so I had this weird feeling that whole week of like, wait, what do I do now? Because I had this time blocked off to promote something. And then suddenly it was like, oh, I don't need to do that anymore. And that was actually a really strange feeling because I feel like sometimes I'm like, I don't know what to do if I'm not working. So I had a plan for that week. And then I was like, I guess I can hang out with the kids a bit. And I did actually, I did spend a lot of time chilling that week. So that worked out good. And then now this month, I think I talked about this last month as well. We were prepping for my video challenge. So this month, that's what it's all about. At the time of recording, we have just opened registration for the challenge. And in the first day, I think we had we actually just looked, it's been open for about a day and a half, something like that. And at the moment we have 566 people who've joined, which is pretty cool and exciting. My aim is 2,000 people this challenge, which is a little scary to say because, I mean, what if I don't get it? Then that'll be embarrassing, but that's what I'm going for.
Yeah, it's good to say it, I think. And given your track record of how much it's grown each time, I think that's a reasonable estimation. Can I just pull you back for a second to challenges with impact? Because,
Sure.
there are times where we hear people talk about selling something out really fast, and then they're like, what I want to know is like, so what is the thing? How did you build it? What's going on? And what I think is brilliant about this is that you're teaching it live, and I'm in there, so I know what's going on. And I think it's an amazing program. I had some great ideas for a challenge myself. So when you said it, you hadn't actually made anything yet. You hadn't put all the time into, sometimes people put weeks and months and even years into like a course or a program or something. Your material really well because you've done all these challenges. So you're teaching something you know how to do, but you're building it each week as you go along. I mean, you're doing slides and it's kind of like presentation style, but I don't know. I think for people who are like, how do people sell something out quick, make it quick, and then have it appear? Like, do you want to say anything about your process there? Because
I think at this point, if you have listened to any of our podcasts at all, you probably know that I'm like a very hesitant person and I tend to get nervous and say no to things. And we've talked about that plenty. And so I find that it's really hard for me to overcome that sort of anxiety gap, that sort of barrier that I have to doing something. So I've discovered that the easiest way to overcome it is to promise people stuff that I then have to deliver. If I have to try and deliver first based on my own motivation and momentum, it's never gonna happen. So I usually will promise something and then go, oh no, why did I do this? Now I have to go ahead with it. So that's just a strategy I've come up with that kind of helps me in life and business, but that's what I did with this. So I figured if I had a group of people that were showing up, I couldn't freak out about it. Like I couldn't get all worked up about getting it totally perfect and figuring out how to just, to make the most perfect, beautiful slides or, it's like those details really didn't matter. I just thought if I can have a group that comes on with me live, then it'll cover two things. One, it means it makes me show up and just deliver, and whatever comes out of my mouth is what will be in it. As in I won't have to like stop and go, okay, that didn't sound quite perfect or anything like that. So I like that aspect of live, that if you know your material, it's just having a chat. And then at the end, I'm doing a Q&A portion. And that's because, while I do know my material really well, because this is what I do, I don't know what I don't know. Like, so I don't know what people are going to wonder about, and I don't know what bits I'm going to say that make perfect sense to me and then maybe don't make sense to other people. And so I found that having that Q&A portion then, and we're recording the Q&A as well, and they've all given their permission for that to become part of the ongoing program. So that means that that stuff is covered. So I'm also learning from them, okay, how are they receiving this? Is this something that is making sense? I can identify the things that don't make sense, although mostly I think it's been making sense to people. And it's been really, really fun. The way it worked out actually ended up being really good for me, because it also meant that the people in the group are people that I'm familiar with. They're in my other courses and programs. So it feels like a very comfortable environment to be in, which has been fun. But yeah, I figured if I don't promise I'm going to show up and do this live, I could take months, creating the perfect course. And it also gave them an opportunity to hop in and learn the stuff now and get the benefit of being able to ask questions. So that's what I was thinking about. Now, in terms of selling out fast, I have to put my hands up and say, I don't know any magic sales formula. It's not like in this, it really was, there was people there who have been asking me, can you teach something to do with challenges? So they really were like ready for, and I've been saying over and over, yeah, at some point. So like it was sort of a hungry audience of people who've seen me do something, who've been asking me to teach it. And so in this instance, I think it's a little bit of luck, to be honest, or just giving people what they want,
Well, I think that honesty is important too, because sometimes people will say, I sold out a program in 18 hours. Want to learn how to do it? Here's my magic sales formula. And then you try it and you don't have the same hungry audience and it doesn't work for you. So I think explaining that this was something people have been asking for is important too. But I just loved watching it, because I was, we were both kind of creating some things at the same time. And I don't have a thing like challenges that people have seen me do massively successfully and wanted to learn. So I don't have that same hungry audience, but just watching yours be like, oh, all the spots are gone. I was like, wow, that is incredible. Like, that's what I think all of us want to do. So some of it may be finding that thing that you display, or displaying something you're really good at if you aren't showing, like your challenges for video, everything's focused on video. If people hadn't seen you doing those challenges and hadn't realized how much they were growing, how successful they are, that you enroll people into a paid course at the end. I mean, anyone who does them without enrolling still gets a lot out of the challenge. I think that's the most important thing with the impact part is even if they never pay you for anything, they've gotten a lot from your challenges.
Yes.
But most people who get a lot from your challenges want more. So you have this really beautiful way of building the audience. And then a side benefit of that was them wanting to know how to do challenges too. So even though you didn't like construct it that way, it's making me think, oh, how could I construct something so that in the midst of, providing an impactful challenge or something, I could also display something that I can do that they would be interested in as well, Yeah,
and I think sometimes it's just about doing what you did, which is just getting the offers there. Because there's, like I've decided a couple of years ago that I really wanted to focus on growing this video membership group. And I wanted that to be like my main source of income. And I was like, what would happen if I just focused on one thing for an extended period of time? So I was really nervous about even selling anything outside of that. But I worked a little bit actually with a strategist, and we talked about, well, like there are these other things that people want. What are you providing for people who that's not quite right for, but they have something else that you do that they're really interested in? And so I think that part of it is staying focused, but then also looking at like, it's almost like there's like collateral opportunities in what you're doing. So if you're focused on selling, your Money Matters course, then there's also collateral opportunities. If they see you do something and then maybe someone wants to work with you one-on-one, or maybe someone is like, I've seen Jen do podcasts. Like, Jen, how you do podcasts and interviews is totally different from how I've seen anyone else do it. Like you always bring this like really conversational style. I was having a chat with our mutual friend Tara about this the other day, and we were talking about how good you are at that. And so that's something that to you is just, well, that's just what I do. I just go on the podcast and I chat. But to other people, that's like, well, how do we represent ourselves and how do we share our story? And so then now you have that, your podcast power session, which is giving someone the opportunity to use that, to say, oh, I love how Jen does that. I'd love to somehow access her brain for that topic. And so I think that's what it's about, because you're still staying focused on doing the things that you want to do, but then you've given people now an opportunity to tap into this collateral, maybe collateral is the wrong word, but I think it's an opportunity that's there, that's not necessarily part of the main focus, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right. That's totally what I was trying to do with that.
Yeah. And you also didn't even realize that was there until people, aka me, started asking like, hey, you have this thing, you do this podcast thing. And I know a couple other people have asked you about podcasts, and I've seen people tag you as well in situations where people are talking about podcasts. And so that's the kind of thing I think that you're looking for, where it's like, actually, this person is really good at doing this thing. And that thing, like the podcast or the challenge or whatever, it's not, like no one ever sets out to say, I'm going to teach people how to do challenges. You do a challenge because you want something else, or you do a podcast because you want to capitalize on your ability to connect and go, okay, I want to create this thing. And, but then along the way you do discover and you learn stuff about it. And then it's not so much you're not going to be teaching people to go and teach people to do podcasts. You're helping them to bring in some of the skills that you've learned, which is cool.
Mm-hmm. That's true. And then I was thinking with all of those things, there's both the technical side. Some people teach like the tech of how to set up podcasts, what equipment to use and all those things. But then also other people teach the softer skills. And I think that's the same thing with the challenges. Because I remember there was some question of like how high tech for the challenges, like how do you set up the autoresponders and how do you set up the circles? Because your challenge has gotten complex as it's grown, because you still want to keep that high touch, really personalized feeling to it. So you've created circles and circle leaders so that everyone's videos get viewed and get attention and get feedback. But that's actually not what most people need when they're first doing a challenge. So, you said in your sales page for the Challenges with Impact, this is not a tech course. It's kind of like the low tech version of it, because you need to get started. The idea, finding out what people want, what's going to interest them, the softer skills of how to run a challenge is what you need first.
Yeah, the strategy around it. And I think as well, a lot of times, and this also comes to making an offer, like you, Jen, you don't have to be a podcast expert. Like you don't have to have like the most downloads in the world to be able to help people look at how to present themselves, or how to get themselves booked on podcasts and things like that. And so like, for example, what you're talking about with the tech, I do strategy. I like figure out how am I going to make this an impactful experience, and how are we going to, like, what's the topic of it going to be? But I don't even do my own tech anymore. I did at the start, the first few challenges, I just had the simplest setup. I believe in starting simple. And then at this point now, I hire a team to set up my challenges when I'm doing it, and they do stuff that I don't even know how to do, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. So I think that's important too. Like as you grow, you build those things out, and it's true. Like as you were saying, I don't have the most downloads in the world, and that's so true. But can you go to Jen and Niamh?
That's not what I said.
Okay, you don't need the most downloads in the world. But you can't go to John Lee Dumas, who does Entrepreneur on Fire and has like millions and millions and millions of downloads, and get him to do a 1-hour session with you either. So there's this sort of laddering of experience. Like, but you, when you're first starting your first podcast or first getting on podcasts, you don't really need his expertise either, know? So there's kind of a, like, talking to our own audience. I'm not trying to talk to his audience who want these massive blow up shows. A lot of times it's good to just start talking to the people who you're already talking to,
Yeah, and it's not about necessarily being.
Did we just?
Yeah, no, we're good. We froze for a sec, but we're good. It's not. I think it's not about being everything to everyone. And I think that actually that's the biggest problem when people are creating something or creating any kind of program, is like we come at a topic, and then we start out with something fairly simple to teach, and then we realize, oh, but then also they need this and also that, and then before you know it, you're trying to teach everything and the kitchen sink, and then it becomes too much for your audience to like digest and deal with. And I find that that's the hardest thing. I mean, that's why with video, I was like, the video is too complex to teach in one step-by-step course. It's impossible because everyone has a different use for it. So that's why it fit a different model. And I like did a membership program so that people could just dip in and out and get the specific trainings that they need. And then something like a challenge is actually straightforward. It's first you make this decision, then you make that decision. So as well, it's like thinking about like, how are you going to help your audience? But yeah, so that's what's up this month. I'm just sort of way over here talking about this, but I think it's fun. I think there's exciting stuff going on. We're both creating new things, which is kind of interesting, and then also doing our usual things. So
yeah, I think that's a pretty good wrap up. What do you think?
Absolutely. Well, you know, one thing that we also did this month, or doing this month, is we finally have launched our podcast, which I just want to take a moment and go, woohoo! Yeah, so
that was good. I think here the first couple days, there was this problem with the placeholder art that got put up, and then the placeholder.
Why iTunes?
And we didn't want to. Yeah, you know how things get stuck in like a cache or something on the internet, and the picture won't refresh. We had that, and it wouldn't show our album art on iTunes. We had a placeholder from my other show, which Niamh wasn't even on. So we're like, we don't want to be sharing this with this wrong photo. So we put off sharing for a couple days until we managed to like reload everything and try to like push it through iTunes again. But you know, that's just kind of the way things go with tech sometimes.
Yeah, and I think that's also, it's important to be like, it doesn't mean anything, you know? Like I found myself getting really worked up because I was like, but I love this, and I was super excited, and there's this window where I want to be talking about it before I'm talking about challenges, and then it's like, you know what, this is not like a one-time thing. We're doing this, and we're doing it regularly, and then it's like, you know what, it's an ongoing thing. We're going to be sharing it. It's all going to be fine. And I find that really helps to know that it doesn't matter. It's all good, and everything has its little bumps at the start.
So now it's exciting to know people are actually listening, and like we can see that there's stuff going on, and it's good. Gives us more focus to continue.
Exactly.
And we would love to hear from you guys what you think. So if you've gotten this far in our podcast, well, maybe this is the first one you're listening to, because I know iTunes puts the newest one on the top. We want to know what you guys think. So you can comment if you're watching it on YouTube. Let us know what's going on over there. And if you're on iTunes, please subscribe, rate, and review. And you can sign up for our list, because soon we'll start letting you know things. The list really is to convince Niamh that there are people who want us to do a retreat. A retreat in Ireland at the super magical place that's on the album art that has a little waterfall. You can see us hanging out together there. But we'll also give updates there, I'm sure, pretty soon.
Absolutely, yeah. So thanks, guys, for hopping in here and learning about what's up with us this month. And I'm sure we'll be updating you next month with how all this has gone. All right, thanks, everyone.
How many people joined the challenge?
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.